Hi, Codie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so excited to have you here on the Pleasurable Success podcast. This is such a good topic that we're going to be covering today because we are officially just about a month in to 2021. And people are all about their resolutions and setting their goals. And I would love for you to share your perspective on how to be consistent with your goals. So, we are going to be diving super deep into all of that today. But before we do, I would love for you to introduce yourself and who you are, what you do with the audience.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm super excited that you had me on here. So I am Codie. I'm a health and lifestyle coach. So I basically help my clients create a sustainable lifestyle that they can maintain forever. And that includes fitness, nutrition, mindset, figuring out really like picture your ideal lifestyle. What does that look like and how do we get you there? Because there's so many fads and diets and people doing different things. And at the end of the day, people need to figure out how to create a lifestyle that's going to work for them because everyone has different lives. Everyone has different situations. And it's not going to work if you're just trying to fit into the mold of what other people are doing. So that's basically what I help my clients with is just how do we incorporate nutrition and fitness and mindset and making you the happiest version of yourself into your lifestyle.
Yes, and you do an incredible job of it. You are absolutely crushing it and changing so many lives. And I appreciate you so much. Like watching your stories, you like whip me back into shape to make sure I'm keeping on track with my lifestyle. So I love it and I appreciate you. And I'm excited for you to share your outlook with the listeners. So let's dive in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yay. Okay, cool. So my first question for you, Codie, is I look at you as like the goal setting and habit forming queen. So, as we're going into 2021, what is like like your biggest tip for setting goals this year and staying consistent with the goal throughout the entire year and for the rest of your life?
Definitely. This is something that people often don't really know how to do at all. People set these massive goals and just don't really know where to start. So, what I always tell my clients and what I work with my clients on is like you have to start super, super, super small and gradually increase whatever you're working towards as the weeks go by. So, you have to think of like, okay, what do I know 100% no matter what I can accomplish this week and kind of start there and then build a strategy off of that. So a lot of the time people, they want to start working out and they're like, okay, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. I'm going to eat super healthy. And then after 3 weeks, they're like so burnt out and can't do it anymore. So the better idea would be start with like 2 times per week, hit it 100%, maybe hold that for 2 weeks. And then maybe week 3, go into 3 times per week. So starting small for sure is going to be super, super helpful in actually being able to form a habit that's going to stick and not feel overwhelming.
Okay, so setting kind of like these micro goals, and then it's like you're building your self confidence. Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
like, I just did that. Now I'm capable of doing something a little bit bigger than that, right?
Exactly, because you don't want to set these goals that seem a little bit unrealistic and then disappoint yourself and just feel like a failure. Like the goal here is to build up your confidence, like you said, be able to hit it no matter what, and feel like you can actually accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I would love to kind of dive into that now. It's like, okay, I just, hit my goal for like those, 2 days going to the gym, 2 days a week. And then you kind of fell off of the wagon a little bit. And like, girl, I'm so guilty of doing this. Like, I'll be so good for a couple months. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I cheated. I should just kind of stay off of the wagon. And it's so hard to get back onto it. And so, what are some of like, your go-to tips for your clients that you can share with the listeners of like, okay, I fell off the wagon, but I'm ready to get back on. And how do I find like that motivation to do so?
Yeah. So I would say one thing that I tell everyone is like, you have to keep reminding yourself that you're not perfect and that this happens to everyone. Like falling off the wagon happens to everyone, even people like me that do this for a living, like, or feeling like you're falling off the wagon. And you just also have to remember that if you're trying to create a healthy lifestyle, you have to make a decision that that's the kind of person that you're going to be. So no matter if you fall off the wagon for 2 weeks or eat 2 whole pizzas in a day or whatever it may be, like you've already made the decision that you're going to be this healthy person. So there's no choice but to get back on the wagon. So I would say that for most people, when I talk through with them about you're not perfect, it's okay. Like you're going to be just fine. I have full faith in you. People are like, oh yeah, I totally got this. So I think just understanding that, we see all these people on Instagram and people that are just crushing it with their fitness and nutrition, but people aren't showing the hard parts of it. And no one's perfect. So just reminding yourself of that and that you don't have to spiral out of control. You can literally wake up the next day and just continue on your journey.
Yeah, that's so true. It's like, and for anyone's success, right? Not health and fitness, business, anything, like giving yourself the same love and compassion that you would give to somebody else if they fell off the wagon. Um,
That's
and
actually a good point because I actually tell my clients that, like, if you're ever having a moment where you need help or you feel like you need advice, ask yourself what you would tell someone else. And that's probably going to be the right answer every time.
yeah, it always is. We always have the answer within us.
So true.
It is. I totally have those conversations with myself. If I'm like, especially if I'm having a day where physically I'm feeling tired and I'm like, oh, I want to take a nap right now, but I'll feel guilty if I take a nap. And I mean, so much guilt comes along with like falling off of the wagon. And I feel like getting into that guilty cycle, then you start to like lose the motivation even more to do the thing, you know?
Exactly. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So for people who are at the point where they're okay, all right, I fell off the wagon a little bit. How do they get like cut the guilt and leave that at the door and reignite their fire? Like get re-excited again.
Yeah. So I would say that a lot of the time when people set up their environment and set themselves up for success, it's going to be super, super helpful. So I think I posted last week, like I redid my calendar and like the colors and everything. And just doing that makes me feel more motivated for work. So doing little things that are going to make you just feel more excited, whether that be like setting out your workout clothes the night before, filling up your water bottle, setting up your journal so that when you wake up in the morning, you can sit on the couch. It's already there with your candle lit right next to you. Like things like that are going to set you up for success and just make you actually feel excited is super important because everyone loses motivation. And everyone gets stagnant and you have to just be able to spice it up a little bit sometimes and set up your environment for success so that you feel a little bit more excited about it.
Yeah, I love that. Oh my God, spice it up a little bit. And then what's the saying? If you're not planning, you're planning to fail.
Yes, exactly. That's one thing I feel like I reuse the word plan so many times. My clients are probably like, stop saying that word because it's so important.
It is. It is so important. And I can speak to as just someone who loves routine and loves structure. Like I really have to make sure that I'm dedicating myself to that. And if I don't, like I get totally chaotic, like so chaotic. And I think that a lot of people actually fear like the routine and the structure and having a plan, particularly I think women who are really, really in their like feminine essence. Like they fear that the structure, the routine, the rituals, like planning is not going to give them the freedom that they desire, which is totally just not the case. It's actually going to lead you to the freedom that you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's super helpful for anyone that's trying to create new goals or just new regimens is like coming up with some sort of structure that's just going to make you feel like you're getting shit done, basically, is going to be super, super helpful for making you feel more free.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to make you feel way more free. You're going to support yourself like never before. And you're probably going to reach your goal much quicker.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
I love it. Okay. Um, how can someone avoid feeling guilty? Like, is that something that you can avoid? Because I'm going to speak from my personal experience, even till this day, if I want to take a day off, it still like I still have this guilt inside of me, and I have to have that conversation we were talking about earlier where it's like, okay, what would I tell my client right now if they were telling me that they wanted a day off? I'd say, it's totally cool. It's totally fine. You deserve it. Right. And I've had that conversation with myself. Is there any avoiding the guilt at all?
Eventually, people do get there. Yes. It's just, it takes practice to get to that point, honestly. And it's just repeating the action of doing something that might make you feel like you're indulging, whether it's like eating a pizza or drinking some wine, and realizing that when you wake up the next day, nothing bad has happened to you. Everything is still the same. And I'll tell my clients that feel super guilty, like, wake up and weigh yourself 2 days after you have your cheat meal. I guarantee you nothing has changed. It's just this idea you have in your head that like you're going to gain 10 pounds if you have a cheat meal. So just kind of walking through that with people over and over and over every single weekend. And then they realize like, oh my God, I just am super dialed in and like have my cheat meals every now and then, nothing's going to happen to me. And then people just become way more comfortable with the idea of the things that used to make them feel guilty. And I always tell people, like, when you picture your ideal lifestyle, are you never going to have pizza again? Like, are you never going to drink a nice beer at a baseball game?
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of accept the fact, like, that's the lifestyle you want to live. So how do we make it work? And that's what's super, super important to understand, is that you have to figure out what type of lifestyle you want to live and then base everything else around that.
Oh, that's so good, Codie. That's so true. So you definitely, are you at the point, would you say that like you can go to a baseball game, enjoy a nice cold brew with your man, with your friends, and not have that shame that goes along with it because you know that like you're committed to the lifestyle around healthy living?
Yes, 100%. And that usually takes some time too, because it takes some time for people to actually feel like, okay, this is my lifestyle now. People have the constant fear of like falling off the wagon. But at a certain point, people do get to the point where they're like, okay, this is my lifestyle now. I can totally go have a beer and a hot dog or whatever it is. And it's like clockwork. Like, you are really, really dedicated throughout the week. People usually indulge on the weekends. And then Monday, you just feel a little bit bloated, but you know that nothing bad happened to you. It's just bloating. Tuesday, you wake up and you feel pretty good. And then it's just, you do it all over again. And you realize that like you can 100% make progress that way if that's the type of lifestyle you want to be able to live.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it so much because even for business, like on the business side, I think if I take a day off, my whole business is going to come crushing down. And it's just not true. If you fall off, I'm using quotation marks right here. If you fall off the wagon for one day, like your life isn't going to be ruined. There's the next day, there's the next hour. You always have another opportunity to get back on. So how would someone choose that? I want to talk because you kind of dove into the mindset around it.
Mm-hmm.
How does someone choose to even get started?
Yeah. So I would say it's definitely, I work with a lot of different types of people. And sometimes I encounter people that I can just tell are not ready. And you really have to be ready. And it's kind of the same thing when you start a business. Like, if you're not ready to put in the work, it probably won't work. So I would say that's going to be a big thing, is like, you have to make sure that like you're ready, you're fed up with the lifestyle that you've been living. A lot of the time, like, it is super important to invest in a coach or a trainer or something like that to help you get started. But a lot of my clients, just making sure that they are always remembering, again, that they're not perfect, taking it slow. Also, all of my clients pretty much have like morning routines of some sort, doing gratitude, affirmations, intentions, and really building up their mindset. That is super, super important, to just always be focusing on what you're working towards and that end goal in the back of your mind all the freaking time. People, put it on your desk, put it on your bathroom mirror. You're always thinking about it, so that when you have a day that you're not quite feeling it, you can look at it and know exactly where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true too, because like your subconscious mind, maybe it's like you living a healthy lifestyle, you reaching that goal, maybe it's not in there yet, right? Maybe it's not totally on board, but the more you repeat and are consistent and affirm all the time, like it's going to be imprinted there at some point. But your dedication to doing those little things every single day are what are going to help get you there. And then you also touched on like having those, what did you call them? Little like reminders, or you said affirmations, sticky notes.
Affirmations, yeah.
Yeah, like having those little sticky note reminders, just so you're surrounding yourself with that constant information and that constant supportive and empowering things that are going to give you that little motivation.
Definitely. And I think you probably work with your clients on this too, but like manifesting is a real deal, real thing. Like whenever I have my clients work on affirmations or just gratitude, I always have them write gratitude for something that they don't have yet, acting as if they already have it. And I do that literally every day for my business, writing thank you for blank, something I don't have yet, but I know I will have. And literally it always happens because it's in my mind all the time.
Yeah, you're obsessing over it.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah, having that, I forget who came up with it, but I'm so happy and grateful now that I have blank. And then sooner or later, it's going to be your reality. Now, with that, because I actually just talked about this with someone, it's like in like the health and fitness industry, you can't just manifest a 6-pack abs, right? In a sense of like, you can't just sit there and visualize yourself into a 6-pack. You have to take some good, healthy, aligned action.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to speak a little bit about that? I'm like, okay, let's give an actual tangible goal. Someone's trying to lose 20 pounds and they want to have a successful business, right? We're touching on all of this here. And they want to believe in themselves and love themselves, right?
Mhm.
They want to have self-love. What's like some little things that they can start doing, like real tangible examples that they can start doing to manifest that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely keeping up with writing about it. That's going to be huge. That's what a lot of my clients do. And it's super, super helpful. But also, like I kind of touched on in the beginning, like pick one tiny little thing you can focus on for each of those. So like losing 20 pounds. Okay, what can I do so I can lose 20 pounds? Maybe I'm doing no physical activity at all right now. So I'm going to just go for like 2 walks for the week and that's it. And I'm just going to start there. And what else did you say? Having a 6-pack?
Sure, we can go with that. I said business, having a successful business.
Having a successful business, like what can you do? Maybe that's posting on Instagram 1 time per week to promote your business. So just doing those little tiny things and choosing one thing per goal, and expanding on that as you go along, but just you have to constantly remind yourself of what you're working towards. And like I said, I think probably the biggest thing for me has been writing, and having reminders everywhere. And also remembering that it's okay to give yourself a break too sometimes, because it's hard to remember to do that because we all need it sometimes.
Yeah, that's really good. And you said this earlier too. It's like people have to get to the point in their life that they are so fed up. What? They're so fed up in their current situation. They're
Yeah.
so just like done and so eager for change that they're willing to commit themselves to doing something that might be a little bit more challenging, might be hard. It's not comfortable for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find that usually with most of my clients personally, there's something that has gotten to them to the point that they're just fed up. Like whether it's they've never been so heavy in their life, or someone in their family is super unhealthy and they just can't ever imagine being like that. But being ready is super, super important, because there are a lot of people out there that just want the quick fix, but it's so much more beneficial to create a lifestyle. Just do it now, take the time, and then you live the rest of your life being able to live this way and having the tools to live that way.
Gosh, yes, that's so good. It's like this isn't about yo-yo dieting or setting those small little like those small short-term goals, right? It's about setting yourself up for an incredible life.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, you don't want to look at your future and think, am I going to be feeling guilty after every single weekend for the rest of my life? Like, that sounds miserable. No one wants that. So it's time to change that, because there's not a lot of people out there that are focusing on creating lifestyle change instead of just like dieting and getting you to lose weight quickly.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. And like, okay, so another question that I would love to get your perspective on was like habit building. And we kind of already touched on like doing the small little things, but I know for me personally, like there are things in my life, like my morning ritual. Every single morning, I wake up, I read my affirmations, I read my book, I journal, I meditate, and then I do some form of movement. That is habitual for me now. Right. Like I don't even have to question. I don't wake up in the morning and like think, oh, like, I got to go do this. It doesn't feel like a chore anymore,
Mhm. Yeah.
So how can it because I don't even know at what point it did stick for me.
Mhm.
I don't even know when that happened. It just happened. But how is like, okay, if someone's like, okay, I'm doing this consistently, but I still feel that sense of like, do I have to do this? I don't want to do this. At what point does it just become habitual?
Yeah. So that's just, it's all about consistency. And you have to remind yourself, how long have I been doing things the way I've been doing them? Because if I've been, not journaling for my whole life and I want to start journaling, like that's a lot of years that you haven't been doing this habit. So you cannot expect that you're just going to pick it up overnight and be able to maintain it. And that goes with anything. If you have had a bad relationship with food for the last 10 years, you can't just expect that you're not going to want to go grab the Doritos in the cupboard after 3 weeks. That's just not what's going to happen. So the main thing that I would say is it's all consistency, and it takes about an average of 66 days to form a habit, is what they say, whoever they are. So you just gotta stick it out. And some people it takes way longer, some people it takes shorter. But my biggest piece of advice to all of the people that I talk to is, when you're starting to build a habit, attach it onto something you already do. And this is a method called habit stacking that I actually learned from Mark
Ooh.
Manson. I don't know if you know who that is, but
What was the name?
Mark Manson.
No, I don't, but I love this. Let's hear it.
Um, but basically, say you want to start journaling in the morning, and something you do every day without even thinking about it is drinking your coffee. Okay, well, now you're going to attach journaling onto that coffee. So you can't take your first sip until you journal. So now those things are kind of morphed together, something that you haven't been doing and something that you think about, you don't ever have to think about doing. It's just habitual. So that's kind of a good tip for starting something small.
That's an incredible tip. I love that. Listeners, write that down. Habit stacking. You're attaching a small new goal with something that's already habitual for you.
Yes.
Incredible. Oh my God. I love that. I'm going to start doing that myself.
Helpful. And that's what I did. I mean, that's pretty much what I do with everything I want to start.
Yeah, that's really powerful. So thank you for sharing that. And you said his name was Mike Manson?
Mark Manson.
Mark Manson. All right. We're going to have to Google him.
Yeah, no, he's got a lot of good just like lifestyle tips. He swears a lot, which I kind of think is funny and I like. Yeah, no, he's awesome. Look him up.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you for that tip. Okay. You mentioned this briefly earlier, but I want to dive into it a little bit more because I am someone who I love to indulge. Like, I love me a sweet tooth. Like, I got boba. Oh my gosh. My guilty pleasure. um, so how can someone like joyfully indulge?
Yes. So I love to indulge. Like, I am never going to be one of those people that's like restricting myself, because that's not the way that I want to live my life. And the only way that you can truly indulge and feel okay with it is by just doing it in moderation frequently. So, like, for example, I have a terrible sweet tooth. It's amazing. I mean, it's like everything. I could eat every sweet on the planet.
Right.
But if I restrict myself, I'm going to be like craving sweets so bad and eat a whole pie to myself. And then that's just not a healthy relationship with food. So I literally have dessert every single night. And the dessert that I have, it's only like 100 to 150 calories. At the end of the day, that's not going to affect any sort of progress. That's barely anything. But the fact that I have it every single day, I never crave it. And it's just normal to me. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about when you indulge in something and realize nothing bad happens to you after. you start to get used to the idea that like, oh, this is actually okay. So I would just say definitely whatever you're wanting to indulge in, either making a healthy version of it every once in a while or just incorporating it little by little every day, or maybe during the weekdays or whatever it is going to be super, super helpful because you don't want to restrict yourself. And who doesn't want to indulge in all the amazing things that are unhealthy? No
Yeah.
one.
I love that. And I love that you said that because that's so important. And it's a great reminder for myself included. And so I'm sure the listeners are going to really appreciate that you just said that, because you guys, you can't see her. Well, you're going to follow her after seeing this podcast, but her body's banging. She's got a beautiful face. She's absolutely incredible. And she eats dessert at the end of the night.
You're the best. Thanks for being a great woman.
Yes. And that's just so powerful. And I think that you just saying that alone, it opens this door of like relief and hope. Like, wow, I can enjoy my life. I can indulge. I can not have a restrictive diet and still be freaking phenomenal.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, when you look for advice from most fitness professionals or nutrition professionals, there's just so much that goes around about how negative these foods are. And so everyone just has this idea that all of these things are so bad and you should never eat them. And that's why people feel so guilty. But if I can just help normalize that it's totally fine, you just have to make sure you're doing it the right way, then that's like my main mission. That just makes me so happy if I can help people feel okay with living their life a little bit.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. So good. I'm glad I asked that question. That was a little bit personal. Amazing. Okay. So, like I said, I really see you as this goal builder or goal setting and habit building queen. We've touched on a lot already. Is there any last little bits of like, okay, it's 2021, we're a month in, and I want to, and this can be health, mental, physical, emotional, all the things, right? Is there any like last little things that you would love to just share with them around setting a goal that you're like, I got to drive this home, or something new you'd love to introduce to listeners?
I would just say that like it's seriously never too late, and you can start at any time. And that's something that everyone always thinks they have to start on Monday, or they have to start on February 1st or in 2022. Well, 2022 is really far away, and there's no, like, those are all just, there's numbers. There's no need to have to wait for certain periods of time. And the one thing I would say to people is like, you're never going to feel like you can fully do it. Like, you just got to fake it till you make it. And that actually helped me a lot in my business when I first started. Was like, I felt super uncomfortable with what I was doing in the very beginning. And I remember my coach said, fake it till you make it. And just like, not pretend, but just act like the person you want to be. And I tell my clients that all the time. It's like, in every situation you're in, if you're faced with like, eat the pizza, don't eat the pizza. Ask yourself, what would the healthiest version of myself do right now? And that is always going to be the answer. So you just have to act like the person that you want to be all the time. And eventually you'll become that person. So I would say that was like the biggest thing for me when I started my business, and the biggest thing for my clients when they're making decisions, when I'm not messaging them. Just asking yourself, like, what would my best and most amazing, most fulfilled self do in this situation? And whatever that answer is, just do it.
Yeah, that's literally like one of my go-to quotes when I'm working with my clients too. It's like, okay, in every moment you have a decision to make. And if you can simply just have that question of what would the highest version of myself do in that moment, and you choose that, you're already her.
Yeah. And everyone can be that person. Like, it's literally a choice. So I'm glad that you share that with your clients too, because I mean, you can literally be anything that you want to be, honestly. Like, and people just don't believe in themselves, and it's really sad. But then when people get that spark of motivation or hear that, and then they start to believe in themselves, it's honestly like the most amazing thing on the planet.
It is. And yeah, it's literally just a choice. Like, everything you've ever desired is already within you. You just have to decide to be her now, like show up as her. And I know it sounds challenging, like we're saying it like it's so easy. It is challenging, but like your desire for a change, I think this is like a Tony Robbins quote, but your desire must be greater than your fear.
Mhm.
And you got to be willing to be uncomfortable because you know that your goal is far more important to you than staying where you're at.
Right. And usually most people have never really stepped out of their comfort zone. And once they do and they see the benefit from it, they start to feel more comfortable doing that more often. But it's really just about taking that first step and knowing that you really will not accomplish much if you're just afraid and going to stay in your comfort zone. And you just have to take the leap of faith and know that, like, all the people out there that are reaching for their dreams, they're not special. They just made a choice. And that's really all it comes down to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much yes. I always said, I'm like, when people ask, oh, how did you become successful in your business? It's like, I just decided to be, and I
Yeah.
committed myself to that decision. I was dedicated to it. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what really separates people who maybe, success is, I'll say variable. Like there's not a straight line to success and what that looks like. But as like societal's expectations of success, right? It's the people that just committed themselves to doing that thing.
Mhm. Yeah, and never gave up, because at a certain point you're going to see the results. It's just a matter of, like, will you hang on until you get to that point?
I couldn't have said it better myself, Codie. Amazing. Yay. Okay. I'm going to ask you one last question because we're coming up on our time here. And I ask every single one of my podcast guests this question. So speak from your heart. We're all about having pleasurable success here, of course. That is what our my podcast name is. So, how can the listener take away what you've learned and make what you've taught them, rather, and make their success a pleasure-filled experience?
I would say just always remembering where you're going and remembering where you came from and what your original goals were and how you originally thought, and seeing how far you've come. Because that's the biggest thing for most people, I think, in all aspects of life, whether it's business or fitness or nutrition, is we're always striving for the next best thing. And the way that you can continue to honor or reward yourself or just feel good about yourself is remembering where you started, and always remembering that there's opportunity for more, and always have an idea of where you're going and where you're striving to go. Because if you practice gratitude and thinking about everything that you have in your life and everything you've built for yourself, especially in a business, it's going to be so rewarding to you every day to see everything that you've accomplished. So I would say just always remembering where you started, where you're at now, how much progress you've made, and seeing just how much potential you have.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I call the remembering where you were a badass list. Like, make yourself a badass list and remember how much of a badass you already are. And that's going to like fuel you forward into more motion because you're like, wow, I'm actually already pretty incredible and I'm so excited and open for more.
Yeah, exactly. And you've made this much progress so far. So think about how much you could do in the future.
Yeah. So good. Well, Codie, where can the listeners find you?
So I am on Instagram. I'm sure you'll link my Instagram name, but it's Codie_Rae. I've also got my website, which is CodieRae.com. So you can find out all the info on all my programs. And then I'm on Facebook as well, Codie Rae. Codie Rae all around. Just remember the name.
Perfect. We will, my girl. We absolutely will. And all of your links will be in the show notes. So, loves, go check her out. As I said, she's a powerhouse. She's beautiful. She's amazing. And she's changing so many lives. So, if you are ready to have someone hold you accountable to those goals that you are setting in 2021, she is your girl. Thank you for being here, Codie. So happy to have you. Thank you for sharing your gift and your magic with my audience today. And listeners, feel free to share this on your page if you enjoyed it. You know how much I appreciate it. So thank you guys for listening and supporting the podcast. And I'll talk to you next week.